Well, hey friends, it's Tracey from Tea Time with Tracey and Crew. I'm going to do what I read in March. I read 11 books in total. I'll briefly go over, just show you what I didn't get to. I picked more books than I knew I'd have a chance to read this month, or this past month. Anyways, but I kept within the frames of the books that I picked last month to read from. This one I just started. I really just started it last night. So I'm probably going to add this to my April TBR, The Whistling by Rebecca Neatley. Zeros by Chuck Wendig. Didn't get to that. It's about hackers. Shutter Island. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Murder mystery, maybe. I'm not sure. The Book of M. It's about a couple in Asia, I believe, and there's some kind of something going all over the world. People lose their shadow and then they go crazy and forget who they are. And it follows this couple going through something like that. I didn't read Karen Slaughter's book, The Good Daughter. Don't really know about it. It's about two sisters, I believe, and their mother was murdered when they were kids or something. And I'm not really sure. Didn't get to it. And The Burning Girls by C.J. Tudor. I did not get to this. So these will go back on my shelves upstairs. So someday they will go back on my TBR list. But I did get a nice chunk done. So I will show you what I did read in no particular order. I think the most recent one that I read was No Exit by Taylor Adams. This is a thriller book, and I believe it lived up to the hype. I had heard about this book. It's very popular. I gave it, I think, 4 out of 5 stars. It's about a young woman who's on her way home. It's like Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve or something. Because she found out her mother had pancreatic cancer and she's going in for surgery, and she's traveling across the country to try to get to her. And her mom have a strained relationship. Anyway, she gets trapped in a blizzard, so she has to pull off at a rest stop, gas station place, or, just a trucker place. Where there is 3 other people stranded there because there's a blizzard going on. She has she has like 5% left on her cell phone. She's trying to get a hold of, she has another sister and her mother to let her know that she's on her way, and that kind of stuff. While she's outside trying to get a signal in this blizzard, she comes across one of the vehicles there, and she sees a little hand. She soon finds out there's a child in the back seat of a van, and she doesn't know who at the truck stop is driving this van, and it goes from there. So she has to try to figure out, what is she going to do? Is she going to go confront somebody, but they might end up killing everybody? This person might have a gun. All this stuff. This turns quite violent near the end, and it surprised me because a lot of thrillers I find kind of disappoint me that way. I'm not a violent person, but I like to see violence in thriller books sometimes. That sounds horrible, but it's true. It goes really dramatic as the story carries on. And people who you think are good are not good. People who are good that you think are bad are not so bad. And it's just a handful of characters. And I thought it was really enjoyable ride. And yeah, I would recommend this for sure. Nice thriller one. This was a fantastic book. It's called Blindness. It's a translated novel too by Jose Sacramago. Not sure if I'm saying that right. It's translated, winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature. This is about a world where it follows a handful of characters, and one by one. The world over just a couple days, people start going blind, but they're not blind in the dark. Everything is white, like you just see white. And it's not like it happens to everybody all at once. It happens to a nice amount of people at first, but the government tries to herd all these people into compounds to prevent this spreading of this sudden blindness that is taking over. And they don't have any rhyme or reason of how this spreads to people. And I know being blind isn't certainly not the worst thing in the world, but imagine the whole city's going blind and armies trying to wrangle you into places, and you got to survive. and learn to work with the other senses that you have. You get to know some of the characters really well in here, and the political ways that they have to try to govern their little compound that they have, and potential escape, because the longer they're in this compound, the more and more people, government people, army people, people on the outside, are going more and more blind. So eventually, over time, everybody's going to be blind. So they're going to be trapped in this compound because they can't get out. And they're actually held there in these compounds with guns and with force. And I really enjoyed it. I would highly recommend this book. Really, it's not very long, really. And yeah, I didn't really know much about it. And I enjoyed the whole thing. This one is extreme horror. This is The Groomer by Jonathan, I don't know. Don't read this unless you're into extreme horror, okay? This follows, well, at the very beginning of the book is where the most graphic stuff happens. There's a young boy, I think he's 10? And he makes friends with somebody playing online games, and the guy persuades him to meet up in real life, like a schmoozer, somebody. Oh, just a minute. Here comes my husband. Oh, he's coming back down in a minute. He's going outside to barbecue. Anyways, this 10-year-old boy meets up with this predator, pretty much, and he's never to be seen again. He's brought back to some basement, and there's another child there, a very young child, like diaper child, and extreme things go on. And then it follows another family, a husband and a wife, and just a sec. Anyways, it follows this family, and they're just a regular old family of a son and a daughter, and the little daughter, who's 5, is kidnapped. And you, as the reader, you think you know what's going to happen to this little girl, and because you've seen what happened to these other 2 children, and you followed this father and mother going insane trying to find their daughter, going to extreme lengths. They're working with the police, and eventually, things start to peter out and leads stop, and the father gets more adamant. He's just a run-of-the-mill kind of dad, very vanilla, but he's pushed to the edge, and it's very extreme. So I really enjoyed this book in that sense, but it's extreme horror and grotesque, and the evil people in this book are extremely evil, and I don't recommend it for people that aren't that have major triggers, because there's major triggers in any book that I ever mentioned. Check triggers, but this one's one of the higher end extreme ones. My furnace is about to turn on again. This one I really like too. It's called Intercepts by T.J. Payne. This is about a government experiment. People are being held in a government facility that's very secretive, and the subjects there, the intercepts that are kept there, are deprived of sleep and stimulation, and they're pushed to the brink of pain, all in the name of government infiltration of other countries and things. So the more they push these subjects, the more that they can mentally connect with other governments and espionage and things. They can get a visual from the information they get from the subjects that they hold. And it follows some of the subjects that are being held. They don't generally speak until they're hooked up to these torture things. When they're not hooked up to the torture things, they are just a bubbling mess on the floor, rolling back and forth, making noises. Their heads are shaved. Their arms are just, sometimes they're restrained. They're just a blob of mess kind of thing. But you follow some of the workers that work in these government facilities. And one of the workers has a teenage daughter. And anyways, it follows what happens to her because something traumatic happens to her mother, and then she is forced to go live with her father. And since her mother dies, she is getting visions from some strange lady in a medical gown, and it's horrifying. And the things this daughter says to her father, who the father works at one of these facilities, it sounds very familiar of one of the subjects that is one of the Intercepts, and it's tricky, it's tricky, but very good book. And it ends up, the only thing I wish I knew more of where these subjects came from. How did they get these people in these facilities? And but I would highly recommend this book. It was very good. Enjoyed the whole thing. Just a minute, I'll wait for the furnace to stop. Alright, I had to go make some room on my phone, and everything, all hell broke loose. My husband's outside, my 2 dogs are being crazy, and 2 of my children are here making a birthday card for my neighbor next door, because it's her birthday, and she's an April Fool's, because it's April Fool's Day right now. Anyways, let's continue on. Okay, this book just came out, was just dropped March 26th. And I devoured it. This is Kresley Cole's. It's the 20th installment of the Immortals After Dark series. You don't have to read all those books in order. It's kind of nice if you do, though, because some characters you see from one book in another book, even though it doesn't really tie into the plot of other books, it's the whole world. You know what I mean? It's like meeting a friend at a coffee shop, but they were from a different book kind of thing. However, this is just a novella. It's 179 pages. This has to do with a witch named Poppy and a smoke demon named Rock, R-O-K. And Poppy is, she has a curse on her. I won't say what the curse is, but she got word from somebody that in order to break her curse that she's had for years, you should go to this castle, a certain castle in a different realm. But there's certain requirements you got to do to be able to get into this castle. That was owned by an evil warlock, sorcerer person who has long since been dead. But anybody that tries to get into this castle is never seen again. Only she wants to break this curse so bad, she's going to do this. Anyways, she sets out on this adventure, and all of a sudden, Rock shows up right before she goes into this castle. And demons in this world can transport or vaporize from one place to another, sort of thing. Anyways, he shows up because he has a little fancy for this witch. They have a tangled history that you learn about a little bit as you go on. So she's not very happy that he's showed up there. Like, what the heck are you doing here, kind of thing. Anyways, she can't enter this castle, and she's not telling him why she's trying to get into this castle. He doesn't know anything about this castle, even though he's a trained assassin and really does research. He just got word that she's doing this dangerous thing and wants to go and help her, even though she does not want his help. Long story short, they get into the castle, but crazy things happen in this castle. It really just drops, so I'm not gonna do spoilers. And they're trapped in this castle. You can't leave this castle no matter what you do, except for a very specific time, under very specific circumstances, and they need to survive while they're in there. And it goes from there. Anyways, I can't speak no wrong about Kresley Cole. She's my OG comfort author, automatic buy. I've been reading her for 20 years, and I have every single book she's ever put out, and yeah, love it. The next one is Stolen Tongues. This is a horror novel, and again, this lived up to the hype for me. Apparently, this was originally a Reddit story turned into a novel. This is about a couple that go on an anniversary getaway to a cottage up north somewheres. The cottage is owned by the woman's parents, but they hadn't been there for years. Anyways, they get there and they start hearing weird noises out in the woods, and it's almost like calling to the wife to come out. And for some reason, she seems to conversate with this strange voice, and it's like the voice is speaking directly to her. The husband can hear it too, and he sees things. He feels like he's being called out to the woods because it looks like his wife is standing out there. But anyways, they find out there's some shady history with this property and this mountain that this cottage is on. They try to hightail it out of there, but something seems to follow them. It's like something's got their hooks into them, even if they live all the way across the country, and it just won't leave them be. And I thought it was really good. You meet the wife's parents, and they're kind of weird about the whole cottage. They try to play it off, oh, we just haven't been there for years, we're getting old, we don't want to. Well, really, what's going on here? Why is the real reason? That sort of thing. Anyways, I really liked it. I would highly recommend it. I thought it was worth the read. So that one. Another one I read was Darcy Coates' The Carrow Haunt. This was a nice, fluffy kind of horror haunting book. This is about a young woman. I don't remember names. She's like a tour guide of a haunted property, things. But somebody that goes to this property invites her to go to this other property, Carrow Manor or whatever. Her and a few other specialty people, like a psychic medium person, another science paranormal investigator. It's like a hodgepodge of people that, are in the realm of hauntings and things like that. Anyways, they don't know each other. The woman in this does know one person that works at the same place that she does. Anyways, this place is haunted, obviously. It's a haunting. There's some escapades that go on. There's some blood, murder. Well, not really murder, but some death scenes. And you see some different haunting apparitions and things. I really enjoyed this book. This is the second book of Darcy Coates I've ever read. They're not scary whatsoever, but they're a nice, comfy, cozy, wrap up with a bow, happy-ish ending. And what you thought was really bad turns out to be, oh, thank goodness, it's not that bad. It's very light, haunting. It reminded me of Hell House by Richard Matheson. Only that book's extremely macabre, I find. I really like that book. Where the only correlation between the two, they have a hodgepodge of different people in the realm of paranormal things locked in the certain house manor kind of thing. This is that, only this is like the PG version of it. And I did enjoy it. I would recommend it for those that are just dabbling into horror. This would be the author for you. All right, you guys. Stop bickering. They're over trying to... Just a minute. Okay, I read this one, The Guest List by Lucy Foley. It's a thriller book. I enjoyed it. It was okay. Like, if it's out of 5 stars, I'd give it a 3. I kind of guessed the twisty things in this, but it's about a wedding going on this island. I forget, it's in Ireland or something. I forget now. So the wedding party goes to this island to have this wedding. They got a really super good deal on this estate on the island that hosts weddings and things like that. So it's the bride, her fiance, his buddies, her friend, her sister, and you follow that. Somebody ends up passing away, and you're like, who? What happened? They were only there overnight. Why is somebody, what happened to them already? Who did it? It's a whodunit kind of thing. And it does get a little twisty. It's not so much of a twist that I was like, oh, what a waste of time reading this. I thought it was good. It's a general kind of thriller, and I kind of guessed a little over halfway through how it started to pull together. You get to know some of the characters. You get to see a little rift between family members and loved ones that you think, oh, you dirty, rotten scoundrel kind of thing. I don't want to divulge too much. It's a very popular book. It's been out for a little while. It's okay. It's not bad. It's okay. The Guest List. You've probably heard about this. If you're watching book videos, you've probably heard about this. It's all right. Not that bad. I have 2 copies of this, so I have them. It looks like I had more books in the thing. Excuse me. I'm still getting over being sick. Mo Hader's Skin. I just have 2 copies of it. So this is book 4 or 5 in a 7-book series, so I can't talk too much about it, but it's a Jack Cafferty novel, and this whole series, it's like a thriller book. Murder, crime. It's like a crime detective book. Are those different than thriller books? Crime detective. He's a detective. And so it follows him and another character that was in a previous book. So I wouldn't recommend just jumping into this. Start at the beginning, which I think is Birdman. All extremely dark books. Very bloody, very gory, very... yeah, the crimes that are committed in these, they're grotesque. And Mo Hader doesn't hold back on what she writes about, which I really appreciate this, but a brief overglaze of what this book is about. The other person in this book, she, like I said, was in the previous book. She's an underwater diver for the police. Like, she's contracted out for when they have to go in water to look for bodies and things like that. Anyway, she has a brother and an annoying wife, and a lady shows up. Her brother ended up borrowing her car one time, and when the lady gets back after a long days of work, she could smell something when she pulled her car into the drive. There's this dead body in the trunk of her car. Where did this come from? So it's like, my brother had the car last night. I don't remember names. And she's on the edge of, how do I take care of this? He's my brother. Do I cover it up? Do I this and that? And it goes from there. There's also another story. It's all tied in together that Jack Cafferty's trying to figure out who this lady's missing, who happens to be the lady in this woman's trunk. But there's other bodies showing up in similar manners that are and he's worried that the missing woman who is in this lady's trunk is another victim of a serial killer that Jack Cafferty's trying to find. And anyways, it's just a tangled, messy, grotesque web. And I would say if this falls under the thriller category, she is my absolute favorite thriller person that I've been able to find. It's extreme enough for me that it's like, anyways, I like it. I loved it, actually. Okay, this one, Foxlow by Eleanor Wasserberg, I'm not sure. I love the feel of this book. It feels nice. It looks nice. I like the colors. It even came with a bookmark. I bought all of these books secondhand, all of them. Anyways, this one is about a cult. It follows, it starts off with 4 or 5 different little kids in this big old farmhouse out in the middle of the woods. They're at a celebration at first, and they're just little. There's a little baby, and then a few children under the age of 10. Anyways, their property is surrounded by salt, and the children are told you can't go past this salt line or the evil's going to take you. And they live off the land. They do certain things. If they misbehave, they're treated in a certain way. But all of these children, they're not actually related to one another. And as the kids get older, they realize that they came at different times. Like there isn't really a mother or a father. There's different things. And you see some of these children grow up and the baby grow up. And as this book goes on, you follow their path. At one point when they're teenager-y, a strange man comes to their property and decides to stay. Turns out this man is sick, and he grew up in this house, and they're so fascinated with him because he's from the outside. And he's back. He's from the outside. They've never seen the outside. And it gets darker and darker as these children grow up and potentially go out in the world, the way they see the world, and reflect on where they came from and what they learned. It's kind of a tortured kind of book. It's a lovely book. At the very end, it's like it takes a sharp, dark turn, which I like books like that. anyways, it's a good book. It's not action-packed or anything. It's almost like a lazy reading kind of book, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but yeah. It was alright. I liked it. Okay, last but not least, I read a Ted Dekker book. I have a few other books of his. I paid $2.49 for this. This is a thriller book. This is about a man, I forget his name. He is driving one day in his car and he gets just a random call saying he has to call the newspaper and notify the newspaper of this heinous crime that you committed. You need to admit to it, and you've done it before. You need to go and let everybody know. And the driver, the main guy, is like, I don't know what he's talking about. I didn't do anything. He has 3 minutes to do this or his car is going to explode. So he's freaking out. He pulls off on the side of the road and gets out of his car. 3 minutes are up and his car explodes. And he's freaking out. There's people all around and stuff. The police get involved, and he tells the police about the call. And the police, set people on him to watch him and stuff. He gets a few more calls of doing extreme things. And there's a couple of different detectives brought into this. It goes into this man's backstory from when he was young, a child growing up. His mother had died. He went to live with his aunt, and his aunt was crazy. His aunt had a son who had a disability, and he was treated extremely poorly. He eventually grew up and moved out. Just 3 years of moving out from his crazy aunt. This man is in his mid to late 20s now. He wants to be a priest or a minister or something like that, and he's not understanding. I haven't done anything. It talks about a childhood friend that he had when he was little, and it follows this crazy journey. This has a twist in it, and it's not so extreme, but I didn't see all the twists coming. There's a couple of different twists in this book, so I appreciate it for that. This book read almost like one of the crime TV shows, though, and that's not a bad thing. I felt like I was watching like a movie or one of the, I don't watch those shows, NCIS or Criminal Minds or something like that. It read like that because there was a lot of police talk and police intervention and things like that. So the action when it happened was extreme, which was funny in that way. Like there's not peddly little explosion. It's a grand explosion. Walk away from a building explosion, that sort of thing. Like Die Hard much, like something like that. So it read like an action movie. I enjoyed it. It was a fun read. And I do, like I said, I have a couple other his books. I will read them. It was fun. 3-4 stars, something like that. It wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. It was a fun go. So those are all the books that I read in the month of March. And yeah, I had a pretty good reading month. I kind of petered out at the end, but that's all right. But I think April's going to be I'm going to mismatch different kinds of genres and stuff. So right now I'm going to say peace, love, and happiness today and every single day. Please like, share, and subscribe if you so choose, but if not, that's okay too. I still love ya. I still want all the happiness in the world for each and every one of you out there. I certainly do. I really, really honest and truly do. Yes, I do. So, okay guys, with that, I'm going to say have a good night or have a good morning, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.